Right now I have a i7 13700K and a 3090 non-TI. Yes, very normal.
My burden is too great.
Nothing crazy. It is a full custom water loop, though. Where is that?
My burden is too great.
Gee.
I need help.
It's cheaper. It's a valid statement.
Marked.
Like 100%. It's a valid reason. Oh, that's kind of dope.
You can't be serious, Thomas. Morgan's Folly is lost in ruins. Going back is
God, such a fanboy.
for the fog for Akarat. Surely you understand that.
Like sometimes I wonder, you know, if AMD as a company had you know, a male genitalia, if you would just spend your days riding it. Sir.
The forge is ready for whatever. Come back if you need the forge.
I need thorns. I bet it's true, bro. Oh, it's hot in here. Only problem with this water loop, it generates a lot of heat. Like a lot of heat. Thorns. 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 Thorns? No. I can't find anything that's got thorns on it. Alright.
I can break that down.
Yeah. I need to get 2 of those. Right. Yeah. How can I tell which ones I have equipped? There's got to be an easy way. That's strange. I don't know why it would go up in price. Not saying it hasn't.
This is the Lee 011 Dynamic, specifically the Evo, probably one of the most popular 011 cases that have ever existed. We don't need this anymore. Because now we've got the 011 Dynamic Evo XL. It's bigger, like me.
By how much? Promise it wasn't me. Like I said, it wasn't me. I promise.
Now, realistically, I could just say, hey guys, it's an Evo, but it's bigger, and that'd be the end of the video. But this is Lian Li, so you know they probably made some changes. But to really understand how different it is, or what it's like to build in, we have to build in it. So I chose some average, just everyday parts, nothing crazy, you know, not much, but it's mine. I got a 7950X3D, just, I didn't want to go crazy on the CPU. You know, I've got an ROG Crosshair X670E Extreme because to this day, I still don't have any other brand X670 for whatever reason. It's an Asus board, all I got. Nothing crazy, but the Dark Power 13,000 watt ATX 3. Dark Power 13,000 watts. No, I said this is an average build. We're not going with 13,000 watts today. That's tomorrow's video film.
That makes sense.
Anyway, it's an ATX 3.0 power supply, so it'll plug into our not much, but it'll do RTX 4090 but of course, it can't be a Lian Li video without filling it up with a whole bunch of Lian Li Uni fans, as well as their brand new Galahad 2 LCD SL Infinity 360 AIO. Oh, and then of course we've just got a 90.
I think tomorrow morning when I get in, I'm gonna rip my computer apart first thing. Before I go off to that on-site. So I might be on a little bit late tomorrow morning.
PCIe Gen 4 SSD, so plebeian.
Yeah, it didn't work very well last time.
Yeah, I'm not going to even bother doing an unboxing portion of this video because I just need to build it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I've said this a million times. Taking a walk through the case, although this one's probably big enough to take a walk through the case, still definitely good. You could use this as like a cubby, like sit in there as like a... Anyway, moving on, building in it is the ultimate way to figure out how a case actually feels. So, let's build it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you know what? I have been satirical, half serious over the days where I'm just like, okay, enough of the Evo, enough of the Lee and Leo 11 dynamic series, we get it. The XL is by far, the Evo XL is by far my favorite dynamic yet. So it's not just scaled up in a few different dimensions, giving you a lot of room. As you can see, we have 3 of the reverse blade. So these are the reverse blade Unifan Infinity Mirror. These look like as they're turning, they would be blowing air down. They're not. The pitch of the blade is backwards, so it's pulling air through. These are the 140s right here. So this is the traditional way, where the air comes through the cage. So they didn't give me any of the reverse airflow for the 140, but this still looks all right, because the nice thing about the Unifan is the fact that the lighting is present on both sides of the fan. So whichever way you turn it, you either get the infinity mirror effect on the hub, or you get this nice aluminum piece with RGB lighting around it in the center. The same thing exists here for the Galahad 2 LCD, which they provided for this build. So as you can see, obviously it's got an LCD screen right here. This is just one of the preset animations that we stuck in there. It's just controlled by one USB-C cable that is a 90-degree that comes right off the pump. It goes right down to a USB 2, and then it's got a 4-pin PWM or 4-pin PWM fan wire that is hooked up over here to our water pump header on the motherboard, which is controlling the speed of the pump and the power of the pump. So it's very, very simple to control that. Now, we are using the Lee & Lee control box that actually came with the fans and not with the AIO. So the nice thing about the plugs on the outside of the Infinity or INF fans is the fact that we could use the fans cables that came with it with the individual fans, which would allow us to use a standard 3-pin RGB header and a 4-pin PWM fan header that you could use in any sort of combo. Or I switched it with the plugs that came with the control box to allow me to have a single plug to plug into the control box. So we've got now the case lighting and then all 3 banks of fans. So these 3 are connected together, those 3 are connected together, those 3 are connected together, going to that one control box. And then basically ASUS is controlling the RGB lighting for its own motherboard lighting, the RAM, as well as the matrix, whatever display that's called. But anyway, the case, let's get back to the case, because that's what we care about here. There have been some pretty significant improvements on this design. Let's go ahead and start with my favorite feature so far that they've done with this. This is this new retention system for your PCI Express devices. So you can see, this isn't like the typical, you have to loosen this up and slide this out of the way and then do the screws on your PCI covers and then pull those out, screw down your graphics card and slide that down and screw it down again, which just makes it a decorative cover. This is actually the retention system. So if I take the screw off, you'll notice this guy flips open. You can see these as soon as they go under tension. Boink. And so that's how the graphics card is mounted. There's no screws actually holding it. So if I flip this a little bit here, you guys can kind of see the insides of these videos. You can see how there's these little nubs that line up the key. This is rubber that's on the side. Those line up with the nub, so it always gets the device in there nice and square. And then when you screw this down, it just doesn't let it go anywhere. So that's exactly how the graphics card is mounted, and it is really solid, actually. I was worried that was going to have a wobble or something to it. It truly does not. Now you have to screw it down, because if you don't, that's the only thing holding it, under tension. So it could just pop open. As soon as you tighten that down,
all right,
bam, there you go. Let's see, a couple other things that you can do. There is some adjustability too to the motherboard tray where you could actually slide the motherboard up if you wanted.
All right, I will be right back.
Hello. Greetings. Hello. You will not live to regret this mistake.
And then you would basically just have to replace these pieces right here. You can see, if I do that, right? So that comes off with this screw here. The Evo, when they introduced the Evo a couple years back, the whole premise of it was modular, where things could be adjusted and reverse ordered and flipped and all that. I just left this in its standard config because it's just the way we're used to seeing it. I always have my cases on the right, so it makes sense. And one of the major changes they made is you'll notice there's no side glass on here right now. And the reason is they've redesigned it slightly so that you no longer have to take the top piece off to get the side panels off if you leave the retention screw out. Now that retention screw really is only for transport purposes. And so when the side glass goes on, it's got a little hook that goes over, lines up, you put a screw through there, and then in transit, that glass cannot pop out. That's the little hook I was talking about there. So it's just got a tapered head screw. I think it's a 6/32 screw that just screws into that. But because it's got 3 ball joints, if you will, that does not come out very easily at all. So if you leave that screw out, now you don't have to take the top panel off to get into the side panel. So on the left side, if you leave the thumb screw out, which is right there, at least you have a little locking tab, so you can leave that out, push that back, pull it up, but you can still get the back panel off without having any sort of screw holding it down. So I think that's an improvement where you don't have to take the top pieces off to access things inside of your case. There you go. This again is actual aluminum. Both of these vents here are air filtered. So you can take these filters off if you want more airflow. Obviously, you've got a large one here for your power supply, and then I've got 3 intake 140s right there. You can also use this as the radiator section if you wanted, so you could move the fans to this side of the bracket, and then you could put the radiator on the other side. Got this thumb screw. This is pretty much the same as the other Evo. I just want to sort of show this. This thumb screw is a lock for the little mechanism here to get the fans in and out. So once you take this thumb screw off, you got this little button right here that you can push, and then if you push that, you can pull, I'm trying to get my fingers here, you pull the whole bracket out. It swivels down, and that's how, and then you can just get it out. So that's how you can get this bracket out to be able to put your radiator on and your fans on and stuff. So clicks in there, very satisfying click. And the thumb screw, if it's the thumb screws aren't in there, it's pretty secure. These are just things that I feel like Lee has discovered for some reason it's important to lock this down maybe when you're not working on it. I don't know what the reason for that would be. It doesn't need to be tight either, it just stops it from going down. This door right here, you can mount 1, 2, 3 drives on here, whether they be probably 2.5 inch drives. You're not really gonna fit 3.5 inch drives. I like that it closes magnetically. And then this is the magnet right here too. So when you open it, it holds itself open while you're working on it. Now you can see I've got a lot of cables going on in here. And I even took these 2 cages out. These are hot swap cages for 2 3.5 inch or 2.5 inch drives. So you've got your 2 SATA cables that are already hardwired into it. And then you've got some SATA power right here, which for whatever reason is very individually cabled here, which I think should be sleeved for neatness. But you get 2 of these. I took them out because one, I'm not using any of these types of drives anymore, so I find them to be a little bit useless for me personally. I'd rather have the space to be wiring. One goes down there, one goes up here. I don't know how many people are still using 2.5 inch or 3.5 inch drives. You do get room for 4 of them by using these cages. Take the cages out, you have room down here for a water pump or whatever else if you want to do a water pump. So power supply length is something you need to be mindful of, because of the fact that, unlike the other cases where you could have a couple different spots to mount the power supply that only goes in the middle now, which I kind of like because it gives you open grommets on the bottom to get things through to your motherboard, like the USB-C cables, or HD audio, or ARGB cables, fan cables, whatever. So that's not going to be in the way. It gives you access to those areas of the motherboard. The only thing is, as you can see, you don't have access to the back of the motherboard with this particular case. So any coolers or such, any brackets and stuff have to be installed on the motherboard first, then put the motherboard in the case. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to install your cooler if it requires access to the back side of the cooler. Pretty much all Intel motherboards. AM5, not so much because of the fact that that retention bracket doesn't come off. So every cooler these days has been adapted to be able to use the factory AM5 mounting solution just because it doesn't come off. So you don't need access to the back of the AM5 board, but an Intel you do, and you can't access it with this one. So mount your cooler, bracketry first, you put the motherboard in, then you can mount your cooler. When I started to say the length of the power supply matters because this is your cable channel right here. All your cables come up and down. So I've got just some, my big cables are just sort of chilling here. You can see I've got all the front side cables and stuff sort of bundled up behind these brackets. Now I can't demonstrate it, here's my green leaf controller right there. This is really dang black cases. Easy way to hide cables. But the brackets on here are pretty neat because you've got a bajillion options vertically to be able to take those brackets and move them up and down based on where your cables are so that you can have the best opportunity for cable management. Now you got Velcro ties along the back side right here between the grommets. You've got some along the bottom. You've even got some on the outside of those brackets that I just showed.